You may have heard that suppressing emotions leads to a rebound of more explosive emotions later. Nope, not how it goes.
All right.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matt B, and I'm actually here at a golf course, which is a place that people can experience a ton of frustration, anger, things like that. And you may have heard the common conception that, if I suppress my emotions, if I try not to feel them, if I sort of bottle them up or push them down, then they'll actually come back in a sort of a more explosive, explosion of emotions later. And research actually by myself and other researchers, has actually found that that's not how it plays out. Some individuals will actually take longer to recover from difficult emotions, negative emotions, things like anxiety or anger, or just general distress, will take longer to recover from those things than other people. But for the most part, it's not like we have this sort of store of emotions that if we push them down, then they just get stored up in this kind of psychic energy and pent up, and then there's nowhere for them to go after a while, and then they just explode, and you have this sort of explosion, sort of like bottling it up, or kind of the Serenity Now thing if you're a Seinfeld fan. But anyway, what actually tends to happen, or what it appears, is that when we suppress our emotions, like we try not to feel an emotion in a situation, or we try not to show the emotions that we're experiencing in our face, when we're sort of dealing with a certain emotional situation in that way, what actually seems to happen is that we end up sort of missing out or not using those opportunities to use other more effective strategies to sort of deal with or regulate our emotions. And then what happens is, in not using those other strategies, we end up not really sort of doing things like asserting our needs in the moment or telling other people what we need. And when we express our emotions in certain ways, or we let other people know how we feel in maybe sort of a diplomatic or calm way, then people will actually respond to us in ways that might help us, right? They might provide support, or they might, modify their behaviors to help us get what we need. But if we're just suppressing our emotions, then what seems to happen is we're never actually doing any things that sort of work in our own favor or help us get what we need. And then over time, people can get frustrated because they're in situations where they feel like they're never getting their needs met. And that's one way that frustration or anger can kind of come up when people suppress their emotions a lot. But it's not that internally we have this sort of, reservoir of emotions that we just sort of fill up, and then we have no more space, and then we just explode. So hopefully that was helpful today in talking about, suppressing emotions. It doesn't just come back in this kind of explosive or explosion of more emotions later, but there's sort of other ways that this can go. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.